your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, thanks for joining us for our Week in Review for Sunday, August 21st. Coming up in the show, we'll hear more about the Alberta government's proposed provincial police force. We'll also take a trip to Taber, Alberta, and speak with a grower who's going to explain exactly what it is that makes Taber corn so tasty and sweet. It really is the best corn I've ever eaten. But first, let's recap some news from around southern Alberta. Parents protested Monday evening and demanded their money back after pulling their kids out of summer camps at the Lethbridge Gymnastics Academy. The academy has shut down since one of the business's former coaches, Jamie Ellicott, was charged with 4 counts of sexually assaulting minors. Video journalist Micah Quinn has more on the changes that parents want to see following the charges laid against Ellicott.
I can't help but to feel that one person doesn't act alone either. Why is he alone with kids? It doesn't make sense to me.
That's according to concerned parent Scott McNeil, who had previously enrolled his daughter Aubrey in summer camps at the Lethbridge Gymnastics Academy. He took her out quickly following the news that Lethbridge police had charged Jamie Ellicott with 4 counts of sexual assault against young girls ranging in age from 7 to 14 years old. Ellicott will appear in court on August 31st to face these charges. McNeil has not been refunded his money yet, saying it seems trivial compared to what the parents and their children are currently going through.
I'd happy give up $300 just to know my daughter's safe and other kids are safe as well. Facilities that don't provide the ability to sit and monitor your children it's not a good facility as far as I'm concerned.
Mallory Christiansen, another concerned parent who has been very vocal about the refunds, has a son herself who is enrolled in the academy. A single child's enrollment for the summer camps costs $300, and up to 4 kids costs $1,200 at the Lethbridge Gymnastics Academy. Christiansen wants to see direct changes that will protect children at places like the LGA moving forward.
For any extracurricular activity that they are put in, we are seeking that there is actually policy and mandates pursuant to ensuring that no child is left one-on-one with the coach. We want to ensure that if there are policies such as the Alberta Gymnastics Federation, it is 2-on-1. That children are actually given the opportunity to understand appropriate and inappropriate touching, that moving forward as a community and as parents, we have the conversation with our children, what is acceptable and what is not acceptable.
As of Tuesday, the Lethbridge Gymnastics Academy has permanently shut down, and the company has taken down their Facebook page and website as well. Bridge City News reached out to Andrea Seawright, the owner of the Gymnastics Academy, for comment on the story, but we did not hear back before our broadcast deadline. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Well, she is a true inspiration to many in the community of Claresholm. Velda Weisensell has been named the 2021 Alberta Queen after she managed to lose over 100 pounds. As Angela Stewart tells us, Velda is sharing her story with the hopes that it might inspire others with their weight loss journey.
Everybody just kept at you, just kept saying, go, go, go.
At 88 years old, longtime Claresholm resident Velda Weisensell is being recognized for her big accomplishment.
Oh, it makes me feel wonderful. It makes me feel good.
It's taken 28 years to get to this point, and now Weisensell is celebrating her weight loss of 122 pounds, while also being recognized as 2021 Alberta Queen through a group called TOPS, also known as Take Off Pounds Sensibly. Before joining TOPS in Claresholm, Weisensell says she was over 200 pounds and knew she wanted to make a change.
I could have been 250 pounds, you know. I was going all the time, you know. I'd done everything I could possibly do. I wanted to wear decent clothes and I wanted to look like other people.
Her journey wasn't easy. Weisensell says at times she felt discouraged.
You'd lose weight and then you'd go up. Then you'd lose some more pounds and then you'd go up. It was just a bouncy. I was really trying to diet and do stuff like that, you know. I say, oh, well, I'm going to lose these pounds. Well, I go back to TOPS and they'd be up another 2 or 3 pounds.
Having lost all her weight now, Weisensell is an inspiration to many, including Melinda Bates.
28 years to do this, and I would have gave up by now, but she just kept going. So she's a real incentive for all of us ladies, not only just for losing weight, for just being Velda.
You'd have to do this, and you got to have perseverance.
Weisencell says she hopes her story will encourage others who might be struggling with their weight loss journey.
You got to put it in your mind here that you're going to do this, and that's what they've got to do.
For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
Coming up after the break, a look at what's making headlines around the province. Keep it right here.
We've got a government who has consistently been trying to privatize healthcare.
Welcome back. The Crown is asking that a Calgary man who scammed clients out of millions of dollars in a Ponzi scheme be sentenced to between 10 and 12 years in prison. Arnold Bright Cruz was convicted on June 29th of fraud in which investors believed they were putting money into Safe First mortgages. Court heard that the money from his company, Base Financial, was instead loaned to an oil and gas promoter and used in a risky oil play in Texas that was secured against oil and gas leases and equipment. Crown Attorney Shelley Smith says Bright Cruz was in a position of trust and defrauded scores of people up to $21 million in a 17-month period beginning in May of 2014. The Alberta Union of Provincial Employees says ad campaigns will not fix the fundamental problems driving staff shortages in our province. The union's vice president, Bobby Jo Bority, says if Alberta wants to attract and retain workers, then the attacks have to stop.
It's unfortunate that the list is actually quite long. A few of the examples are Bill 47, which is a specific attack on occupational health and safety standards within the workplace. We've got Bill 32, which puts significant limitations around workers' abilities to picket and where they can picket in the event of a strike. We've got a government who has consistently been trying to privatize healthcare as well as other public services. We've seen them indicate in the public that they wish to cut 11,000 jobs in healthcare, and all of our employees are going to the table, sitting across from employers, including the government, where significant rollbacks are being put forward. So, those are a few of the examples of the attacks, and those need to stop before Alberta actually becomes a desirable place to work.
The Alberta government announced a blueprint for a provincial police service that would add 275 frontline police officers to our province's 42 detachments. Justice Minister Tyler Shandro says Alberta is still studying the potential of a provincial police force. He says it's sorely needed because the RCMP's mandate is stretched far too thin.
The federal government themselves admit it. Briefing notes provided to the minister responsible for the RCMP contain the following points that I just want to take a moment to quote verbatim. Quote, under-resourcing is resulting in officer health and wellness concerns, end quote. Another quote, federal policing responsibilities have been and are being eroded to meet contract needs, end quote. And there's this one. It has been the Government of Canada's objective since the 1960s to decrease its contract policing financial liability, end quote. And that's why so many provinces and municipalities with RCMP contracts are looking at alternatives.
Now, Tyler Dawson, who is the Alberta correspondent with the National Post, has more details as to what the provincial police force may look like here in Alberta.
The idea is to sort of take some of these services and move them from Edmonton and Calgary into smaller sort of population areas. And what the government says this will do is set a minimum detachment size of 10 officers. Apparently some detachments in the province are more like 3 officers, and that should help things like response time and all that sort of stuff. It would amount to, the government says, about 275 new officers in sort of rural and small town Alberta. So this is sort of the logistics of it, not a super exciting announcement, but it gives us a look at what this could look like.
Groups representing defense lawyers in a dispute with Alberta over funding say beginning September 1st, their members will not take on serious criminal offense cases. The groups include the Criminal Defense Lawyers Association in Calgary, Criminal Trial Lawyers Association in Edmonton, and the Southern Alberta Defense Lawyers Association. Many of the cases they will refuse include sexual offenses, homicides, and firearms-related offenses. They say defense lawyers are taking the action following a meeting with Justice Minister Tyler Shandro, who they say was dismissive of their concerns. The province says it has already increased legal aid spending. A man from Blairmore is dead following a head-on collision with a pickup truck near Pincher Creek. Police were dispatched to the collision on Highway 3 just east of Highway 785 around 11 a.m. on Thursday. They say the 62-year-old driver of a sedan was attempting to pass another vehicle when it collided head-on with a westbound truck. The driver was declared dead on scene while the driver of this pickup truck received minor injuries. Up next, apparently not everyone with the province is on board with the provincial police force in Alberta, and our legislative reporter Tyler Dawson will have those details shortly. Stay with us. Welcome back. As you saw earlier in our program, the United Conservative Party has proposed a deployment plan for a potential Alberta police force. And what's most interesting is that the province is still not fully committed to the idea. To discuss this in more detail, here's BCN's Hal Roberts and our legislative reporter, Tyler Dawson, who is the Alberta correspondent with the National Post.
Tyler, is the idea that gaining even more traction, an initiative like this would be quite costly and would see a major reorganization of RCMP detachments across the province.
Yeah, so what was released this week was essentially the boots on the ground kind of plan, and sort of the high level overview of it is that the government is proposing to sort of reorganize the 113 RCMP detachments into about 65 to 80 community detachments, then 20 to 30 sort of service hubs, they're calling them. So that's where you would have things like the tactical and canine units that'd be in sort of larger but still small centers. And the idea is to sort of take some of these services and move them from Edmonton and Calgary into smaller sort of population areas. And what the government says this will do is set a minimum detachment size of 10 officers. Apparently some detachments in the province are more like 3 officers, and that should help things like response time and all that sort of stuff. It would amount to, the government says, about 275 new officers in sort of rural and small town Alberta. So this is sort of the logistics of it, not a super exciting announcement, but it gives us a look at what this could look like. And as you mentioned, the really strange thing is they haven't fully committed to it. They're still in sort of the study phase, the consultation phase. There will be even more consultations with Indigenous communities if this goes ahead. I asked Tyler Shandro on Tuesday, the Justice Minister, I said, look, can you put a number between 1 and 10 on where you guys are at on this? And he said, well, it's really going to be up to the next government to make a decision on this. So, could be another UCP government, could be the New Democrats who have been, really critical of this. They called it a boondoggle on Tuesday. So probably not going to happen if the NDP forms government next spring.
And a lot of the detractors, those who are against the idea of an Alberta Provincial Police Force, have been talking about how much more money it will cost Alberta taxpayers. What are you hearing right now?
Well, that's right. In particular, the rural municipalities sort of came together at a general meeting earlier this year and sort of officially said, no, we don't approve of this. We don't have enough answers. We're worried about a downloading of costs. And the issue basically is that with the RCMP, you have a cost sharing agreement between the province, municipalities, and the federal government. And I believe the federal government's chunk of that is about $170 million. So the province would lose that money if it transitioned to its own police force, and would have to make it up somewhere else. And then, of course, there's all the rest of it, right? There's detachments. Do you need to build them? Are you going to rent them or lease them? There's the equipment. Are you going to buy that from the RCMP? Do you have to source it? So there's a whole sort of separate pot of money, I think about $400 million that would have to go to simple transition costs. So, there's the deployment issue, there's the politics of it, and, also the financial implications.
Tyler, we've been chatting a lot about the UCP leadership quite a bit here, but it appears as though the Alberta Liberal Party cannot find a new leader. The nomination period passed without anyone officially putting their name forward.
Yeah, so once a party that formed government. I mean, about 100 years ago, I think, but they did form government at one point, and they couldn't find anyone. So the party is still going to have its interim leader for the time being. They did say they had interest in it, but for sort of personal reasons, people didn't want to step up and become the party leader. So a bit unclear, let's say, about what that party's future is going to look like. And I think the probable explanation for this is that the progressives in the province have just sort of lined up behind the New Democrats, sort of a two-party system as opposed to a multi-party system. We've seen sort of the same thing on the right with the Freedom Conservative Party, with the Wild Rose Independence Party, just haven't really managed to make a big splash here. So just, shifting dynamics, I think, across the province in terms of where people are casting ballots.
Now, when it comes to the UCP leadership, Danielle Smith received more endorsements recently. That included our own Lethbridge East MLA Nathan Newdorf, former Justice Minister Casey Madu, and former Ag Minister Devin Dreeshen.
And also, a couple people have switched their allegiances from Travis Taves to Danielle Smith, notably Nate Glubish, I believe the Service Alberta Minister, and Pat Wren, who's Northern Alberta MLA. So, there's folks sort of lining up behind Danielle Smith. She's getting a lot of the press. She's getting a lot of attention. Everyone is sort of responding to the announcements she's made.
After the break, we dive more into the idea behind whether or not Alberta should have a provincial police force. We hear from a county reeve who's dead set against it, and an MLA who says Albertans are not seeing all the pluses to implementing it. That's next.
Cost is obviously of a paramount concern to the county. We have a very limited amount of resources to work with.
Doing things like the police force are a step towards showing that we can be more autonomous.
Welcome back. We want to take a deeper dive into the two different sides to the argument of Alberta implementing its own police force. Other areas of the country have done it, but would it work for Alberta? First up, we hear from Lethbridge County Reeve Tori Campbell, who says it would be just too expensive.
Coming out of the Fair Deal panel that the government of Alberta had commissioned, coming from that panel, one of the recommendations to come out of there was that the province explore the possibility of a transition to a provincial police service. I think, yeah, definitely. Cost is obviously of a paramount concern to the county. We have a very limited amount of resources to work with, and any further strain on that has to go towards policing is obviously of great concern. We're happy with the current arrangement that we have with the RCMP. We fully acknowledge that there's work to be done to improve that relationship and to increase that level of service within the county. But at the same time, we feel that we can work within that current relationship, build and strengthen that, and come out in a favorable position.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about your local detachment of RCMP. You must have a great relationship with them. What are their thoughts and feelings on this? Are they neutral about it? Are they happy? Are they upset? What are you hearing?
Yeah, so when we travel to Edmonton for our RMA convention, we have the opportunity to meet with K Division and talk with some higher ranking officials there within the RCMP. And we've relayed to them and will continue to that we appreciate the support that we receive. We appreciate the relationship. And what they've communicated to us is that they're very much engaged in working with us. There's been no indication from anyone on the RCMP side of the table that they want to move away from policing. I know that's kind of been bantied about a bit, but there's been no indication that there's any appetite from the RCMP to move away from that. They want to provide a service, and they want to provide it in a cost-effective manner to municipalities.
Reeve Campbell does give a pretty compelling argument, but so does MLA Drew Barnes, who says Albertans aren't seeing the whole picture when it comes to the benefits a provincial police force would bring. Take a look.
Well, I think part of the problem there is Premier Kenney you know, my goodness, in his third year, he has lost so much trust with Albertans and Alberta municipalities. He hasn't clearly conveyed to our municipalities how it would work and how the cost would be. You know, as an example, I understand that right now the federal government supports Alberta to the tune of about $350 million a year for policing. But again, in some municipalities, were understaffed. And secondly, the cost of policing has just been increased substantially. I mean, God bless the individual work that individual RCMP officers do, but I understand they just all got a $20,000 retroactive raise, which of course, eventually the taxpayer will have to pay that. So with the other financial situations that Ottawa's boxed themselves into, it's only going to get less and less likely that they'll continue to support policing, you know, through Alberta. So let's put Alberta families first in mind. Let's make our communities safer. Secondly, let's have more say over our police force and where we need them. And thirdly, let's show the rest of Canada that it's time that Alberta be treated with equality and fairness, that we get resource movement, and doing things like the police force are a step towards showing that we can be more autonomous. For many people in Alberta, this has been a tough 2 or 3 years, even longer with the, you know, with the change in oil pricing 5 or 6 years ago. And municipalities are hearing from their constituents that they can't raise taxes anymore. So good, you know, caring councillors and mayors and reeves are concerned about having to pass more costs back to their ratepayers. So I think that's where it starts. So you know, but then the secondary problem is sometimes I'm hearing about how, because of staffing issues, that you know, the RCMP can't be in enough places throughout rural Alberta, especially. So you know, we need to have these services.
Well, we hope that we brought you two very strong sides to this ongoing argument and that you can decide for yourself if this is something Alberta needs. After the break, we head out to Taber, Alberta, where it's harvest season. We show you what makes Taber's corn some of the best in the country. In fact, it's so special, the town even has a festival in honor of its famous vegetable. Keep it right here.
The heat units in Taber really affects it because, like in Lethbridge, we don't have that, so it won't have the heat to produce the great corn that it does.
Welcome back. August in southern Alberta means getting a taste of some sweet Taber corn. We now head to Taber and the nearby Molnar farm, where a brother and sister joined me to talk about farming the region's most famous vegetable. We want to know exactly what makes Taber corn so sweet, so special, so delicious, so different from any other corn.
Well, to start off is the heat units that we have here. Our irrigation systems, being able to keep it wet so that it can grow to its max potential, and also the hot days and the cold nights, because the cold nights will actually push the sugar out of the leaves into the ear, so that's what makes it sweeter than the rest.
Your little sister Julianne is here. Julianne, you can come on over. You were telling me something interesting, how it's so unique to southern Alberta that even if you tried to grow this in Lethbridge or Coaldale or one of the other towns, it wouldn't quite work, would it?
No, the heat units in Taber really affects it because, like in Lethbridge, we don't have that, so it won't have the heat to produce the great corn that it does. So that's why we are known for our great corn in Taber, because we have these really hot heat units to help it grow.
Yeah, it's such an interesting geographical location. And you have how many acres here?
75.
Okay, and I understand that this is all hand picked. You guys don't use machines for this.
That is correct. Every acre is hand picked and hand graded.
Okay, and how much corn are you guys producing here?
Approximately 11 to 1,200 dozen per acre. So I'll let you do the math.
Yeah, it's a big job for you guys. How many helping hands do you have?
We have five pickers on our farm, and then another 5 people who sell the corn for us.
Okay, that's amazing. Now, do you want to show me some of the corn here? I know we are surrounded by it, so we might as well take a look at what makes this so special. So normally, and this is ripe. This is ready to go?
Ripe. This is ready to eat. And that's the stuff. That's the golden ticket of Tabor right there.
Awesome. If it's not quite ripe, it's going to look a little bit more white, right?
Yes, that's correct. Kernels start off white and then they will change to yellow as the maturity comes on.
Okay, and this is the time of year, August, right? Mid-August?
Yeah, you betcha. That's why Corn Fest is now, because this is when the corn's the best.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I mean, this town loves the corn so much. Everybody loves this corn so much that they have made a special festival about it called Corn Fest, and we're going to talk to the mayor right away about that. Tabor's a town of 9,000. How much does that grow during a Corn Fest? What's the attendance like?
You know, it's been said somewhere in the guesstimated of the 20 to 30,000 are probably visiting here. Some, I think I said before, are kind of repeat numbers that would be here more than once at any given time. But they figure somewhere in that 20 to 30,000 range that are actually here enjoying the festival for the 3-day activities.
That is fantastic. It is really fun. There's fireworks too, right?
There is, yeah. That's Saturday night, just roughly about 10:30. That would be back in the golf course area. So right, you can just be anywhere in the park here and see the fireworks from the park location anywhere you're at. So.
And Mayor Prokop, you mentioned this was the 36th annual?
37th annual.
37th
yes.
annual.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's definitely a tradition here in Tabor, along with the corn.
It is, absolutely. Like I said, it gets bigger and better every year, and even to the extent the car show is, I think they had a record year with around 300 vehicles last year entered. So I know Lethbridge get a little bit bigger with their car show there, but it's for Tabor, we're doing very well also in that regard.
So Mayor Prokop, what people can expect is Rise, right? There's Midway, there's all kinds of food, there's vendors, there's a stage behind us, which means there's going to be some performances, right?
That's right. As I said, the Midway is a big thing for the kids. Many other events, petting zoo, magicians coming out also, and the stage show, many different bands playing this year, and always some form of music going, starting from Thursday evening, right through till about midnight on Saturday night. So there'll be, I think, some of the Filipino dancers are practicing on the stage at this time. So there's going to be a lot of activity here. There has been the last week or so already. And it's just going to be a really great show for all to attend. And again, back to the family-free festival. We can't go wrong with that.
That's true. That's very important to note that it is one of the last free festivals.
It is. You know, like I said, you talked about the vendors. All kinds of vendors here, different food varieties and food trucks, etc., along with the different other organizations selling their wares or promoting their causes, and really a great event for all to be involved with, and can't say enough great things about it. It is the absolute best. You got to get here.
Coming up after the break, BCN catches up with UCP leadership candidate Brian Jean. Stay with us.